Hi, this is Bobby Thompson with Crochet Guru, and today I'm going to show you how to crochet the shell stitch. Now the shell stitch can be very confusing to a lot of crochet beginners because there are several variations to this stitch. I'm going to show you a few of those variations, and my goal is to make the shell stitch more clear and understandable to the beginner. Here's a tip before we get started. The shell stitch can be made with several different crochet stitches. The more common stitches are the half double crochet stitch, the double crochet stitch, and the triple crochet stitch. Now there are more stitches that you can use to create the shell stitch, but it basically depends on the pattern you are following. Now the double crochet stitch is the most common stitch to use for the shell stitch, and so that is the stitch I'm going to use for my demonstrations. Now before we get started, the shell stitch is abbreviated shell, and that's important to know for pattern reading. Okay, so I'm going to first show you the basic shell stitch, and then I'm going to explain to you why it's called the shell. Before making a shell stitch, it's common practice to skip 2 to 3 stitches in between your shells. So in this demonstration, I'm going to skip 2 stitches and place my hook into the 3rd stitch. Okay, so when you're ready, go ahead and yarn over your hook, skip the first 2 stitches and place your hook into the 3rd stitch. Now yarn over the hook again, pull through the stitch. There should be 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over the hook, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, and yarn over the hook and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. Now basically what we just made is a double crochet, and what I want you to do is place 3 more double crochets into the same stitch. Okay, so yarn over the hook, enter the hook into the same stitch, yarn over the hook again, pull through the stitch, yarn over the hook, pull through the first 2, and then yarn over the hook and pull through the last 2. Then do this 2 more times. So there's 3 double crochets. Do it one more time. And there's your 4th double crochet. Now you can place more double crochet stitches into the same stitch to create a shell, but you typically don't want to do less than 4 stitches or more than 10. And this is because anything less than 4 stitches will not create a shell-like shape, and anything with more than 10 stitches can look too crowded. Okay, so here's a picture of what a 5 double crochet shell looks like, and here's a picture of a 6 double crochet shell. Now this last image shows a 10 double crochet shell. And the reason I am showing you these different pictures is so that you fully understand what a shell stitch is and the different variations you can have. Okay, so the reason this stitch is called the shell is simple and probably obvious, and I'm sure you figured it out already. The reason it's called the shell is because it's shaped like one. Now I'm sure you probably thought this tutorial was over, but there's another stitch that I really want to talk to you about, and that stitch is called the fan stitch. The fan stitch is abbreviated fan, and again that's important to know for pattern reading. Now the reason why this stitch is important to know is because the fan stitch is very closely related to the shell stitch, and it's so closely related that many people actually consider the fan stitch to be a shell stitch. And that's totally fine. The reason I want to show you the fan stitch and the reason I feel it's important is because the fan and the shell can and have both been considered a shell stitch. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do the fan stitch, and then I'm going to explain the difference between the fan and the shell stitch. Okay, so again I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and I'm going to go ahead and place a double crochet into the 3rd stitch. So yarn over the hook, go ahead and place your hook into that 3rd stitch. Yarn over the hook again and pull through the stitch. There should be 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over the hook again, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. Okay, so this is just a double crochet stitch, and now all we're going to do is place another double crochet into the exact same stitch. Okay, so yarn over the hook, place your hook into that same stitch, yarn over the hook and pull through the stitch. There should be 3 loops on your hook. Pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, and then pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. And there's your second double crochet in the same stitch, and now what I want you to do is chain 2. So there's 1 chain, and then there's 2 chains. Okay, so now what we're going to do is place 2 more double crochets into the same stitch. So when you're ready, go ahead and yarn over the hook and place your hook into the same stitch. Yarn over the hook and pull through that stitch, and there will be 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. Okay, so I'm just going to speed up the track and just let you watch me do the last double crochet. Okay, so this is what your basic fan stitch looks like. Now the fan stitch also has several variations. For example, the fan stitch can be worked with 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and then 3 double crochets all into the same stitch. Or it can also be worked with 4 double crochets, 2 chains, and then 4 double crochets into the same stitch. Now I've also seen the fan stitch done in other ways, but again it just really depends on the pattern. So the difference between the shell stitch and the fan stitch is very simple. The shell stitch has no splits or chains in the stitch, and the fan stitch does. I really hope that this tutorial made the shell stitch more clear, and thank you so much for watching and have a great day.